Hi, I'm Kathy from Software Solutions. This presentation provides a detailed guide on SharePoint governance and site setup, covering essential frameworks, roles, information architecture, security, content management, training, best practices, and technical steps for effective SharePoint management. In this presentation, we will explore SharePoint governance framework, define roles and responsibilities, discuss information architecture strategies, cover security and compliance policies, explain content management policies, review training and adoption techniques, explore best practices for site setup, and outline technical steps for managing SharePoint sites. So let's go. An overview of governance approach and its importance, key governance areas and balancing agility with control, risks for poor governance in SharePoint environments. A SharePoint governance approach is a comprehensive set of policies, roles, responsibilities, and processes that dictate how an organisation, business divisions, and IT team manage and use the SharePoint platform to meet business goals, ensure compliance, and maintain a functional, secure environment. SharePoint is a powerful platform for collaboration and content management, but without a clear governance framework, it will quickly become an unstructured, overloaded system. Effective governance requires a multifaceted approach, balancing user agility with administrative control. SharePoint is a powerful platform for collaboration and content management, but without a clear governance framework, it can quickly become an unstructured, overloaded system, leading to common issues such as site sprawl, security risks, compliance failures, and overall a poor user experience. Establishing functions of the governance committee, responsibilities of SharePoint administrators and site owners, and end user responsibility and policy adherence. Establishing a governance committee is fundamental. This cross-functional group, including IT, business leaders, legal compliance, and key stakeholders, develops, maintains, and enforces the policies. The governance committee defines the vision, the policies, the standards, and the objectives. SharePoint administrators, IT, manage the technical infrastructure, site collections, global settings, and the system updates. Site owners, business, manage content, user access permissions within their specific sites, and enforces content lifecycle policies. End users adheres to established policies for content creation, storage, naming conventions, and responsible sharing that complies with privacy and security policies to protect sensitive information. Importance and impact of information architecture, commonly referred to as IA, site structure, and the use of hub sites, taxonomy, metadata, and navigation design. Information architecture, or IA, focuses on how content is organized, structured, and labeled to ensure findability and usability. Poor IA is often the main reason that users can't find information in a SharePoint site. Site structure, defining how sites are organized, often using hub sites in modern SharePoint sites to create a flat, connected, secure structure rather than a deep, inflexible hierarchy. Taxonomy and metadata. implementing consistent content types and managed metadata tags across the environment. This is crucial for consistent classification, effective searching, and compliance. Navigation and search, designing clear, consistent global hub and site-level navigation that optimizes the search experience. Protecting sensitive data and regulatory requirements, permissions management and external sharing policies, data retention, auditing, and monitoring practices. These policies are critical for protecting sensitive data and meeting regulatory requirements under GDPR or HIPAA. Permissions management, implementing the principle of least privilege, giving users only the access that they need. Best practice is to manage access via the Microsoft 365 groups, rather than individual users or breaking permissions at the item level. External sharing, establishing clear, restrictive policies for sharing content with people outside the organisation. Data retention and lifecycle, implementing retentive policies and sensitivity labels to ensure content is kept for the required duration and then appropriately archived or deleted. This helps mitigate the risk of data sprawl. Auditing and monitoring, regularly reviewing usage, access logs, and compliance metrics to identify risks and ensure policy adherence. Content creation, maintenance, and retirement policies. Site provisioning and naming conventions, ensuring content freshness and lifecycle management. Policies dictating how content is created, maintained, and retired. Site provisioning, controlling who can create new sites, self-service versus request approval process, to prevent site sprawl and ensure new sites meet organisational standards. For example, a standard template. Naming conventions, basically establishing mandatory naming rules for sites, documents, and libraries to promote consistency and aid in searching. Content freshness, implementing review schedules and expiration policies to identify and archive or delete outdated, unused, or redundant content. Keep it fresh. Communication strategy for governance policies, user training for different groups, continuous evolution of governance processes. Communication strategy, clearly communicating policies, their purpose, the why, and how they align with business goals. User training, providing appropriate training for different user groups. For example, specific training for site owners versus general training for content consumers on how to use SharePoint according to the new standards. In short, governance is a continuous process, not a one-time project. Governance must evolve as your organisation and the SharePoint platform changes. Flat architecture and the hub and spoke model. IA best practices and the prioritisation of metadata. Hub sites and metadata. IA elements and best practices. metadata over folders, and content types. In the modern SharePoint Online, the best practices have shifted. They've shifted significantly away from the deep, complex hierarchies of the past towards a flat structure using hub sites and metadata. The most important shift in modern SharePoint is moving away from nested subsites, which had a rigid inherited permissions and navigation structure, to a flat structure of independent sites connected by hub sites. While folders are familiar, they create silos and they rely on users knowing the exact path. Metadata, that is tagging content with descriptive properties, is the professional standard for findability, governance, and automation. Hub sites and metadata. Let's have a look at information architecture elements and best practices. Okay, so the first element is sites. These are the spokes. Each team, project, or department gets its own site. Do not use subsites. Each site has its own independent entity for permissions and for governance. Hub sites, the hubs. A hub is a parent site that logically groups related sites, i.e. the spokes. It provides a unified navigation, a search scope, and consistent branding across all of its sites. Connection principle. Organise around business functions or content topics, not around the organisation chart. For example, a project management hub connects all the project sites. An HR hub connects all the sites to do with benefits, policies, or recruiting or onboarding of staff. Search roll-up. Hub sites automatically roll up news and content from all the associated sites, creating dynamic portals that aggregate relative information for the user. Why metadata over folders, which have been historically the flavour? The information architecture element, content types. These are the most powerful tool. A content type defines what a document is. Is it a contract? Is it an invoice? Is it a policy? It bundles a standardized template and the specific metadata columns required for that content. Managed metadata. Use the term store to create centralized, standardized vocabularies, term sets for tagging. This ensures that everyone uses the same terms. Minimal metadata. Do not overwhelm users. Only implement 3 to 5 essential metadata columns that directly improve their search, compliance, and business process experience. Folder use. Use folders sparingly, primarily when you need to apply unique permissions to a subset of files within a library or to support automatic folder creation from a Microsoft Teams channel. This is a step-by-step guide to creating a SharePoint hub site, associating sites with a hub and in the inheritance of navigation and branding, creating and using site content types, creating and adding metadata columns to content types. Creating a hub site is important for a flat, flexible IA. Now, to create a hub site, you generally have to be a SharePoint administrator or a global administrator. But what the process involves is basically creating a site and making it a hub site. So from any SharePoint start page in the top left, you can click the button Create Site. You'll then have the choice, of course, of a team site or a communication site. You can choose either, but a communication site is generally better because it's designed for broadcasting information and acts more like a central portal. Give the hub site a name, give it an address, give it a description, and click Finish. Once you've created that hub site, you then need to register that site as a hub. So this is when you'll need to go to the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. And on the left-hand side, click Show All and click SharePoint. In the SharePoint Admin Center, you can expand sites and you can click Active Sites and you can find the hub site you just created. You'll then see a hub drop down and you'll be able to click it and you'll be able to register your new site as a hub site. Give the hub site a display name and the people who can associate sites to that hub. And then click Save. The third step to creating a hub site, phase 3, is to associate sites, that is the spokes, to the hub. Now that the hub is live, you can connect the sites or the spokes. Go to a spoke site. Go into the settings gear icon and into the site information. In the edit site information, locate the hub site association field and select the newly created hub from the drop-down list and click Save. What happens when a site is associated is that it instantly inherits global navigation, branding, and content roll-up. Creating metadata is to define specific data fields or columns that will be associated. The best practice for governance is to create columns as site columns first and then add them to your content types, which we'll discuss later. This makes the columns reusable and standard across the entire site collection. Creating metadata columns is a matter of going into settings and site information and viewing all the site settings. And under the web designer gallery, you'll see site columns. And it's in there that you can create new columns. And later you will add those columns to your content type. Content types are a foundational step in implementing effective governance and IA in SharePoint. Content types are reusable collections of metadata columns that we made earlier, workflows and settings that you can apply consistently across document libraries and lists, ensuring standardized data and improved searchability. There are two places you can create content types, either at the site level or at the admin level. Creating them at the admin level is best practice for an enterprise-wide consistency. But you can also create them at a site level, and I would recommend that you use your favorite AI tool or search the internet for the steps to create content types, because there's quite a few steps involved. But you will then be able to add the content type to your document library or your lists for consistent branding and handling. And you'll also be able to attach standard templates for different document content types to streamline document creation so that they have a predefined and consistent layout. Well, I do hope that this video or presentation has given you information or guidance about SharePoint information architecture, frameworking and governance so that you can make an effective SharePoint setup. Effective SharePoint governance and site setup is essential for organizational success. By implementing strong frameworks, clear roles, and sound information architecture and comprehensive training, organizations can maximize the benefits of SharePoint while maintaining security and compliance. Ka kite. My name is Kathy Barker, Software Solutions. Goodbye.